What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the WrestleManiac UK show. Myself, Mex, here, delivering this week's Wrestling Weekly. Hope everybody is well. I've got a guest in the building as per, and this week we have got Ben from Wrestling Republic, the top boy over there at Wrestling Republic. Ben, what are we doing? How are we doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. It is finally great to be on this show. I'm excited for it, and there's a lot to talk about this week. Been a crazy week for wrestling news, and I'm honored to be here, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you, man. I remember, I think maybe sometime last year, wanted to get you on, and maybe your calendars couldn't connect or whatever. But we're here now, and guys, we're trying not to be in, dampen spirits, high spirits as always. We were just discussing before we went live, Arsenal. Yeah, it's a hard one. We're both Arsenal fans. It's not good right now. But no, I appreciate you coming through, man. And we're here to talk wrestling. Let's start off and get the pleasantries out of the way. Everyone hit the like button as you come in, if you're watching live or if you're going to watch this back. I appreciate it. The podcast will also be available on Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, Google, all of those places as well if you want to listen in the audio world. And like I said, Ben is the creator, the founder of Wrestling Republic. Ben, do you want to tell the people a bit about Wrestling Republic and when you started it and stuff like that, in case they're unfamiliar?
Absolutely. So I started it basically. I've always absolutely loved wrestling. But in 2016, I got back into it. And the way I got back into it was I turned on the TV and I saw Shane McMahon return for the first time in years and years and years. And it was just such a cool segment at the time. And then a few months later, I was inspired to start what is now known as Wrestling Republic. And yeah, it's blown up since then. If you guys don't watch, we got a daily broadcast every single day at 8 p.m. UK time, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, where we just talk about wrestling, basically. And yeah, it's extremely fun. And yeah, it's my favorite thing to do, talk wrestling.
It's a great channel. I've done some work with Wrestling Republic. Kind of what 2021 or so it might have been.
Yeah, 2021, 2022. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a really good platform, and it's allowing a lot of people, even through the daily broadcast, allowing a lot of people to have their voice on there. And the Instagram page is massive, still growing. So yeah, Ben's doing a lot of good stuff. If you're not tapped in with Wrestling Republic, tap in on the YouTube. The link is in the description, and on Instagram, Wrestling Republic as well. Kind of, I guess, apropos that you mentioned Shane McMahon as one of the pulling forces back into wrestling, which I could have never imagined you were actually going to say that, to be honest. We're going to start today talking about his old man, who I guess is a very controversial figure in wrestling these days, Vince McMahon. And one of the many cases and stuff surrounding his name this past week has been dropped or closed or settled. I don't know what the official term would be. I'll come to you first before we kind of run through some of the details. I know this isn't, I guess, the major thing against his name, but with this situation of him and SEC seemingly having to, like I say, I guess the word is settled and come to an agreement. Vince McMahon has paid a penalty to kind of close this case. He's paid $400,000 as a civil penalty. That's 400,000 US, and he will reimburse the WWE 1.33 million that I guess he owes the company because he took it from them. What's your understanding of this whole situation? I know you've probably covered this within your news during the week.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a complicated one because this doesn't mean that, he's innocent or anything like that. It's almost quite the opposite. But what he was being investigated for was purely the finances. But part of this was also the federal investigation into him. And the fact that this has now come back as, I mean, obviously it's a lot, but it's not that much in the big scheme of things. That's the penalty he's facing. It's it's a lot less than a lot of people thought was going to happen. And a lot of people thought that he could be facing potentially prison time. And of course, people are going to bring up, politics and all that. And perhaps there is a point there, certain timelines do overlap. And of course, he does have friends in very, very high places now. That is for sure. But some people are acting like this could mean he could, return to WWE now or anything like that. It absolutely does not mean that. And the Janelle Grant investigation is still ongoing. Now, if the FBI couldn't find something against him, it is probably unlikely that the Janelle Grant case will, put him in prison or anything like that. But it certainly is not good news for Vince McMahon.
Yeah, it's I guess for him, it's just one less thing to think about, or as fans may see it, something the old man has kind of slivered his way out of. Like you said, it's I guess the punishment was something that people were looking for, a harsher punishment than what's been delivered. 400,000 and 1.3 million to the common person, it's a lot, hell of a lot of money. But like to a Vince McMahon is probably next to nothing. So yeah, he's almost slithered out of that one. And then, once that was settled, we saw this statement, which I'll read out from Vince McMahon. It was a text kind of update, like as a picture on social media. The case is closed. Today ends nearly 3 years of investigation by different governmental agencies. There has been a great deal of speculation about what exactly the government was investigating and what the outcome would be. As today's resolution shows, much of that speculation was misguided and misleading. In the end, there was never anything more to this than minor accounting errors with regard to some personal payments that I made several years ago whilst I was CEO of WWE. I'm thrilled that I can now put all of this behind me. Thoughts on that statement?
I mean, it tells you how much 1.7 million is worth to a billionaire. The fact that he is basically celebrating victory and the fact that he has been proven guilty and has to pay this fine. I mean, it does annoy me a lot, to be honest with you. It absolutely does. He's acting now and he's doing victory laps. He was proven, guilty. He, moved these finances around without telling WWE, and he is now being punished for it. But of course, to him, like you said, it's pocket change.
Yeah, it's almost like, oh, that's it sort of thing. Well, yeah, take that. Yeah, that's fine. That's, like you said, it's almost a victory, because it maybe could have been a lot worse, should have been a lot worse, and it's next to nothing. But like we say, that's one thing, I guess, off his plate, if you like, and there's a lot more serious stuff possibly to deal with. So we'll kind of watch this space and see how that develops. We have seen, and it's been rumored that Vince McMahon has picked up, I guess, some of the executives from WWE that are no longer in WWE. And do you think that, so the rumor is that he's going to be back into the entertainment business, but it's not really clear right now whether that's going to be in wrestling, in other kinds of TV ventures or sports ventures. What's your thought? Because I think he definitely has the gumption and the lack of, I guess, intelligence to just jump back into the wrestling business. But do you think that is something that he is actually trying to do at this time?
I don't think in wrestling, no. I think the rumor, the main proper, reports going around is that he's going to start up his own movie studio. And that I definitely could see happening. I do think that is a possibility. But I don't think a wrestling promotion, but at the same time, it's Vince McMahon. He is hard to predict. But no way if he enters wrestling will it be successful. That's what I don't believe for a second. But a movie studio, I mean, he's tried it before and it failed with WWE Studios. Perhaps this time it could work. And like you said, he's gotten a lot of people from his team in WWE involved. So perhaps it would. There is some funding going into it, reports are suggesting. But wrestling, I don't think so.
Isn't there like, do us as fans, do we judge those that now go to work for him, like judge their moral compass, whether it's a Kevin Dunn, which is someone that we won't see on TV anyway, no matter what he kind of produces, or even if, let's say, it was the wrestling business and we did see, some wrestlers go to join him over there. Do we have a right to kind of judge their moral compass if that was ever the case?
I think so. It's always, it's the long argument, can you judge a person by their character, or can you separate the character from the art? And in this case, if you go and work for him after everything that's come out about him, unless some huge evidence comes out that what we've seen so far is wrong, yeah, I do think we have a right to judge wrestlers. But I am also sure that some wrestlers will take that risk anyway. We have seen quite a few wrestlers who had a lot of allegations against them during the 2020 2021 speaking out movement who are really trying to make a comeback this year. So I mean, those names, some of them are big stars. I could easily see them jumping on board with a Vince McMahon promotion. But again, I don't think he could get enough interest in the promotion for it to really become anything. So I do think it's going to be in the entertainment business, but not wrestling.
Yeah, it's funny because even those you mentioned, like there could be a whole heap of people that names got mentioned in 2021 that were kind of pushed out of the industry or pushed into smaller companies and more obscure places to wrestle because of their name mentioned within the kind of major landscape of things. It's like if they wanted to come back into the business, that should be the last promotion you want to join, because that's not going to do your name any good anyway. So yeah, I think it's kind of like a watch this space, like you said, and like the reports are saying, it seems like it's something within entertainment, maybe a TV show, maybe films related, like you mentioned. Yeah, and not the actual, and not actually wrestling. Got a comment here from WWE. I hope not. The product is better now. So we're not referring to him returning to WWE, of course, but returning to wrestling possibly in some capacity. But like we're saying, it looks more like it will be like a entertainment company or business of some sort. That's what a lot of the rumors are discussing. But we'll park Vince there because I don't want to talk about him for much longer than I need to. But we'll stick with his once upon a time baby, which is the WWE. And let's start with, I guess, the events of this past week. We'll start with The Rock. The Rock was the front and center of no matter what show you probably watched this past week. And we saw him on Raw on Netflix, almost, I guess, what the internet and everyone has called like him declaring that he's not going to be around for WrestleMania, right? Like closing his chapter with Cody Rhodes, with Roman Reigns. You could say he left the door ajar a bit, but it doesn't look like anything may happen right now, sort of thing. Did you take this as pretty much as, guys, I'm not going to be here for WrestleMania this year, or do you think there's still a chance?
I mean, never say never with The Rock, and especially the fact that the next night on NXT, he reiterated that he's like 20 steps ahead of everyone. So I guess you can never say never, but the Cody thing really, really frustrated me. The fact that they dedicated the segment after WrestleMania to building up that Cody Rock match, it was so heavily teased. And now they've just pulled that from us pointlessly. They've just thrown this final boss character in the trash. Sure, with Roman Reigns, there are ways you can return to that feud, but the Cody feud, I think it's done for now, and that really frustrated me.
Yeah, I didn't like the way it was done. Like, if you had to close that chapter abruptly, to be honest, I don't even know why they couldn't have just not addressed it and just kind of left it open. But they chose to address it, and in the way that it was addressed, it just kind of got rid of all heat that was there. I love the fact that Cody got his flowers because he's deserving of those flowers, but it shouldn't have come there and then from that person. That was Triple H's job ultimately, and yeah, the Rock came here and done it. And for Cody Rhodes to laugh with all of his belly and all of his chest when he said, say hello to Mama Rhodes for me, I thought, what is going on here? I don't
It was
know.
bad.
Like it was it was really bad. But like I said, and like you just said, in fact, never say never. I said back in it might have been August 2024, that I think The Rock is entering at number 31 in the Royal Rumble as a means to kind of flex his muscles as Mr. Board member. You don't have to stick to the 30. At this point, I think that's the last hope I have if he's coming to WrestleMania. Otherwise, I'm glad for them to kind of crack on without him. What about you?
I mean, if that is the case, if he really comes in now, enters at number 31, challenges Cody at WrestleMania, and Cody's like, I forgave you. I thought you changed, and now you've done this. In that case, my hat's off to them. They've done a great job, right? Or at the very least, a good job. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be the case. But I do hope it is, because that would be one of the best all-time moments for somebody to enter at number 31, to use their board power, to play into all the dirty reports that he's trying to overpower Triple H and all of that nonsense. To play into that, I think would be exceptional. And I will completely take back my criticism if that is the direction they go in.
Yeah, I think with him saying he's 20 steps ahead, I think now you have to pull off something. If that wasn't a throwaway line and that's meant to mean something, now you have to pull off something that, yeah, it's really dastardly. It's really him abusing his power. And yeah, we see him kind of, use that to get to WrestleMania or whatever the case is, if he wins it or whatever. Yeah, that could be interesting. They tend to book the Royal Rumbles well. And I don't well, how can I say this? I don't see them making a meal of this one, especially with the amount of stars that they have. I mean, conversation along a bit, we saw this past week John Cena obviously declared for the Rumble. I believe CM Punk did as well. And then most recently on SmackDown this weekend, we saw Paul Heyman declare for Roman Reigns. So it's star-studded. Have you got any kind of early predictions as to who walks out as the Rumble winner?
I mean, for the women's Rumble, I think it is quite predictable. I think it's either Becky or Charlotte. My money would be on Becky right now, purely because she didn't return at Raw, and I 100% think both of them are going to be at WrestleMania, so I think it's one of the two. As for the men's Rumble, I mean, I genuinely don't think people in WWE know what's going on right now, because we are hearing like a different match every single day. Every outlet is saying a different thing. I don't think anybody knows. If I had to predict someone right this minute, I would say Randy Orton. I think that it is possible that perhaps Randy Orton is going to return, he's going to win the Royal Rumble, and then he's going to turn heel on Cody Rhodes and say, hey, Kevin, you took me out for months, and while I was in hospital, I was thinking about all of this, and you are right. I can just see them doing that. So if I had to predict something right now, I know a lot of people are saying Cena versus Cody. No way would they do that. No way at the biggest, the grandest stage of them all can they do a face versus face.
You don't think so?
No. I don't think they can pull off a face versus face. No way, because who would people cheer for? You'd throw away your biggest babyface in the company. Unless they are going to do this Homelander thing, which I'd love, but I don't think they're doing. I'd love it, but I don't think they're going to do it.
I really do think, I mean, I did think earlier this year, last year, when Cody became champion, I really did think that we're going to get the Randy Orton feud. We haven't got it all now, but it's clearly in the background bubbling. I definitely do think it's WrestleMania worthy, but surely Randy Orton doesn't need to win the Rumble for us to get that feud. That's what I'm thinking. I'm not against the feud right at
there,
all.
But then who should win the Rumble?
I mean, that's it then, isn't it? There's yeah, that's the question. For the men, that's the question. Your woman's picking Becky at this point, I think, is a good one. Because she's never won a Rumble. She did win one, didn't she?
Yeah, she won one the year that she main evented WrestleMania, I believe.
Yeah, that's
WrestleMania
correct.
35.
Yeah. I think 2018 that was, yeah. So okay. So I was thinking Io Sky, because I thought Io Sky is a pretty good shout, but Becky makes sense as well. But for the men, I don't want Cena to win the Rumble, but I do think a Cena versus Cody is a massive match, which I feel they should do. But you know, the Elimination Chamber's there as well, so I don't know if that might motivate see Cody's match, whether it's Randy Orton or whatever. But I feel like in 2025, Cena or Orton winning the Rumble is a bit of a waste. And I mean, I'm here saying that maybe The Rock should even be in it and stuff. But yeah, Cena and Orton, I definitely feel is a bit of a waste of a Rumble because you don't need them to kind of motivate the world title match. But yeah, Roman. So you think Roman he's not going to win it? And he's nothing in that.
Yeah, I mean the big line, which was a big giveaway on SmackDown, was Paul Heyman saying that this is not a prediction, this is a spoiler. And almost every time he's ever said that has come true. But he didn't say Roman Reigns is going to win the Royal Rumble. He said Roman Reigns is going to enter the Royal Rumble with an intention to win it. So the fact that he used the word intention and put emphasis on it tells me he's not going to win it. The other name, I mean, I absolutely despise it. I'd go nuts. But a lot of people are predicting it is Logan Paul.
That would, yeah, again, that wouldn't be, yeah, that would, I don't need, I feel like I understand morally where people sit with Logan Paul and stuff like that, right? For me, I feel like he's run his course now. And don't get me wrong, we've seen some great stuff in ring from him. And I don't mind seeing that at the appropriate level. All this world title talk and winning a Rumble, I don't want to see that from Logan Paul. Like, just give him some type of special singles match somewhere, let him do some crazy stuff, and I'm cool with that. But yeah, Logan Paul it's frightening, but you understand it from a business point of view, I guess. But yeah, not for me. Pick up Graps Knowledge here in the comments. He says, for what it's worth, Cena is currently the bookies' favorite to win the Rumble at minus 150 odds. Yeah,
it's gone down though quite heavily in the last week, which is
it was like minus 250 or 200, I think, before at the beginning of the week. And yeah, you're right. If it's minus 150 now, then yeah, it's definitely gone down. I don't know, man. I'm not looking forward to it.
It's scary. It feels rushed this Mania season in the main event scene, because I think we were all booking things around the presumption that The Rock was going to be there, and now he isn't. I mean, usually by this point you have a good idea what the WrestleMania main event will be. Last year, of course, is the exception because of what happened, but usually you'd have an idea, and this year nobody, even the insiders, can't agree on it, which is wild.
Yeah, I don't like the fact that The Rock has basically, it's like holding them over a barrel as to, you know, this is what's going to happen, and if I show up, then we can alter plans. Like I said, the roster is packed, and there's so many men and women that are not going to be on 2 nights of WrestleMania. Like, so we can't necessarily be holding out just for this one guy. Like, give him an ultimate, and it's hard because he is who he is now. He has shares. He owns the company almost. So it's like, yeah, it's a difficult one. But okay, I mean, we're still the best part of 2 to 3 weeks out from Rumble. So I guess we'll see if TV kind of points us in any direction. But yeah, right now, at least the men's winner is not sounding like it's exciting me or you as to the direction that they're gonna go. But we'll see. Let's move over to AEW. The big story from AEW this past week is the situation around Malakai Black, the House of Black. Now, for those that have been living under a rock and not seen it, allegedly Malakai Black has wrestled his last match for AEW. You will not see him on the product again. The stories are that he's pretty much done, finished up with the company. And I think some further details have come out in the last couple of days that it may be February or so that his contract is up. I take this with a pinch of salt because I said on one of the videos I made earlier this week, it seems like every 3 months for the past 2 years, Malakai Black is leaving AEW. So it's like,
that's true.
Yeah. So it's like, do you believe this? But I this one, especially from what we've seen play out on TV, with Ospreay kind of G'ing up, Buddy Matthews that you can do it, you can go out on your own. I watched Collision this morning, and Cope was out here G'ing up Brody King after his match, and Julia Hart saying the same thing. You can go out on your own. I've got respect for you, etc., etc. Which I think is the biggest indication after we saw Malakai Black face Adam Cole and basically say what looked like a goodbye there, if you remember that, and then go on to deny, like, I'm not leaving, I'm not retiring. What's been your take on, I guess, his whole AEW run and, you know, this current situation of him leaving?
I mean, first things first, the fact that he's been getting so annoyed every time at wrestling media for saying, you know, oh, why do you think I'm leaving? Like, he's finished his match. He's gone. He's waved to the crowd. He's like almost crying. It's like, what do you expect people to think? It's that frustrated me. But I do have a friend, a close friend of mine's actually fairly good friends with Malakai Black. And I don't have any inside knowledge on what he's going to do now. I know none of that. But what I do know is, at least, you know, as of a couple of years ago, this guy was not enjoying American wrestling. This guy was obsessed with all of the Japanese wrestling, not even the current stuff in Japan, the older stuff. That was the only wrestling which he would talk about. But he's also somebody who's, you know, got a lot of like other interests and stuff, such as horror and stuff like that. So a lot of people are predicting, of course, a return to the WWE, and I do think that's absolutely possible. Of course, his girlfriend or wife, Zelina Vega, is there, so it is absolutely possible and perhaps logical that he does go there. I also would not rule out Japan, but I also would not rule out at all him just going off and like creating his own little independent film studio or something like that, meanwhile continuing his wrestling school. Because he's got a lot of interest, and he absolutely, this is the one thing I can tell you about him, he absolutely despises wrestling media. And now in WWE, you do have a responsibility that you are expected to do a lot of these media events, and I really don't think he'd do it. Like, he hates wrestling media that much. He wouldn't do any of it when he was in WWE, in AEW. And his overall AEW run, I'm a big fan of his. But, I mean, it peaked right at the start. It peaked when he did that teaser promo joining the promotion. I mean, he's just disappeared every few months. We've not seen much from him. There's been no consistency. And it's really disappointing because I think he's a phenomenal promo. He's got a great look. He's highly marketable. And he's fantastic in the ring. How on earth do you go wrong with somebody like that? But clearly something did. And I do think there's certain things behind the scenes maybe we don't know about. But his next guess to me, his next location to me could be anybody's guess.
It concerns me, like, you know, we've got him wrong twice. WWE main roster got him wrong. AEW, you know, they got him wrong. And I said in a video earlier this week that you know, we often say whose fault is it and booking and this, that, and the other. But I definitely feel like Malakai Black has a part to play in his lack of success in AEW. And of course, I'm really speculating. I don't know nothing for sure, but I think AEW have a part to play, 100%. But I do believe when someone is given opportunity on TV, you need to leave an impact so that your booker, you know, the guy in charge, whatever, they call you back in. Like, no, we need to use that guy again. And I was saying, it even came to me as I was saying, as I was recording a video earlier this week, that Brody King and Julia Hart have had the biggest impact in House of Black than the other two that, you know, quote unquote, reached the top of the mountain in the WWE. Well, not literally, but they worked for the biggest company, if you see what I mean. Like, Brody King is the one that everyone wants to see, and okay, what could he do in a singles capacity? Julia Hart has already, you know, went and won the women's TBS championship. She just came back from injury. They gave her vignettes, bringing her back in. She pinned the former women's AEW champion. Like, these guys' stocks are higher than who we thought it would be in that particular group. And I just feel like, I don't know, was he? I saw videos of him this past weekend at CCW. He had an indie booking this past weekend, Malakai Black, and the way he was moving in the ring, Ben, he hasn't moved like this in AEW. I promise you. And it's like, were you phoning it in this whole time, or maybe you just resigned to the fact you knew you were leaving, and now you've got a new lease on life, sort of thing? I don't know, but I feel like WWE is probably where he returns to because of the wife factor, if anything. You know, like you mentioned, he's married to Zelina Vega. But what do we now do with him in WWE so this doesn't happen for a third time?
It's difficult. I mean, to your point, I do think he has to be partly to blame for what happened in AEW and also happened in his, later time in WWE. He has said he loves working with Triple H. So again, perhaps that could be what happens. But I also do think he's just lost love for mainstream wrestling because, again, that was never his love to begin with. He likes the niche stuff. He likes martial arts. He likes, older wrestling in Japan, right? The Inoki and all of that. That's what he just absolutely adores. So if somebody's heart's not in it, it's not going to work. And again, this is purely speculation based on, what I've heard from a mutual friend. But if his heart's not going to be in it, then he's going to fail regardless. And that is really unfortunate. But again, he did like working with Triple H before. Rob Fee, somebody in WWE who, of course, Bray Wyatt got on really, really well with, who loves the horror influence, the long-term storytelling. Perhaps that's somebody who Malakai Black could really work with and get along with well, and perhaps he could really help him get his long-term story and make sure it makes sense. But again, his heart has to be in it. And so far, his heart clearly was not in AEW. His heart on the main roster in WWE just wasn't there either. He needs to care. And if he does care, it could be a huge success. And realistically, alongside Triple H and Rob Fee, I think it could be a recipe for success.
Yeah, I mean, I wanna see him back in there. I don't know if the timings and stuff will work out. Probably not. But do you think he's someone that we could see in the Rumble?
So the rumor currently is late February, early March. Right?
Okay.
Unfortunately, doesn't seem to be the case. But again, Dirt Sheets have been wrong a lot recently, so who knows? Perhaps we could see a shock, or perhaps Raw after WrestleMania.
I did see a report that the current bookers in WWE, the creative team, they've been banding his name around and thinking of stories over the past few days. I think Meltzer said that this past week or so. But again, Meltzer's been wrong quite a lot recently, so you never know who to believe. But yeah, it'll be a shame to kind of see that talent not kick on. But just looking at, I guess, everyone else that's left there in his absence, him leaving, Buddy Matthews, Brody King, Julia Hart. What do you want to see from these people now individually, or if they're going to stay as a unit?
I think Brody King has had just a phenomenal run the last year and a half. I do think they need to make his booking a little bit more consistent for sure. But every time he's been given an opportunity, he has killed it. He was arguably the breakout star in AEW last year. Buddy Matthews, and you said it earlier, was somebody who, when he came into AEW, there was so much hype around, and then it kind of just, fell flat. Nothing happened. And it's really unfortunate because he is so good in the ring. And the idea of him versus Kenny Omega gets me so pumped up. Like, I really, really want to see that match. But yeah, he hasn't been used well at all. But hopefully that will change now once he's out of House of Black. I did like Will Ospreay kind of putting him over this week as well after their brilliant match they had on Dynamite. As for Julia Hart, I mean, that is the one person this faction really, really did help. It gave her this new character, and she has been phenomenal in it. She really has become a star. So I don't think it's all bad. I think Brody King and Julia Hart benefited from it, but Malakai Black obviously didn't, and Buddy Matthews didn't as well. But hopefully now coming out of it, all three who are remaining in AEW can become stars and get more TV time, because I think crucially that's the main issue. Every time they've had TV time, they've delivered, but they've just not had enough TV time to deliver consistently.
I'm glad you added that word in there, because they get the time, but it's like, I think you said this earlier as well. 1 week they're on, the next week they're not, next week they're not, the next week you might get a vignette, the next week they're not on TV. Like it's really been shaky, apart from Julia Hart, really, who, was relatively booked consistently leading up to her winning the TBS title while she was champion. Everyone else was just, you know, finding time. And I remember a lot of those internet rants and stuff that Malakai would do about I'm not injured and stuff like that, that I'm just, not being booked, I guess. So yeah, it's a strange situation for the group. Hopefully they can overcome that and, like we say, flourish individually. WWE says here in the chat, I'm sorry, but he's overrated. His character is stale. He should have stuck to real fighting because he's boring.
Oh, I disagree with that.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. However, one of my biggest I guess pet peeve things in wrestling is the whole kind of mystical character stuff. I feel like you could have mystique without having to be some type of demon, ghost, or fake entity or something like that. And he does fall into that category, and I feel like sometimes that definitely hampers talents, because it's something that needs to be played up 100% of the time. Like when we saw the Wyatt Six come to TV, but they only destroyed Raw, and SmackDown was still fine, and they never went on to SmackDown. And there was still Raw talk right after the show that they just destroyed. Like, you see what I mean? Like, for me, when you're doing these kind of characters, you need to really commit to it and carry it through your entire programming for it to really make sense. And I guess it's a bit of the same with Malakai Black and the whole. I mean, his mystique kind of stuff is as far as just disappearing and reappearing, and it's like, well, who's turning out the lights and making him come back on and stuff. So yeah, I think the character, maybe the mystique stuff or the mystical creature stuff can be toned down a bit. But no, I don't agree that he's not a good wrestler or anything like that. The guy's brilliant. So
I think it is quite a hard thing to pull off as well, to your point, these mystical characters, because with wrestling, and I always say this, whether it's, kick out to selling moves to anything, the number one purpose of professional wrestling is to suspend your disbelief. So to do that, you can, you can push the boundaries when people are really, really invested. But there's always got to be, some logical explanation that makes it make sense. To your point, turning out the lights. Okay, maybe they paid somebody off to turn out the lights, something like that. Even threaten somebody, like that's, all logical. But as soon as, it's my issue with the mist sometimes as well, that it changes somebody's character. I mean, how is it doing that then? I mean, it's little things like that that do just annoy me a little bit. And when done right, it makes sense. And I think Undertaker, there's a lot of moments throughout his career where stuff didn't make sense. But for the most part, WWE really nailed it, with there being logical explanations behind what he did, but at the same time, him feeling larger than life.
yeah, it's a thin line, like we're saying. Maybe with, like you said, Rob Fee and stuff, that if he does come back to WWE, they could do some really cool bits and make it all make sense. But yeah, I guess as fans at this point, like I said, we've probably got enough clues over Dynamite and Collision this past week to know that the end has come for House of Black at the very least. Obviously, they haven't mentioned Malakai himself, but the end has come for the faction. And yeah, we expect Malakai Black to leave, and we'll see where he turns up. I think that could be a very interesting bit. Somebody else who's not going to be on AEW programming in the near future, Darby Allin. Darby Allin has apparently been given leave to begin his training for Mount Everest, right? Firstly, what do you think of AEW allowing Darby to do something which is, pretty dangerous and questionable ultimately?
I mean, it is. I don't even think that we, as wrestling fans, really realize how dangerous it is. Like, it is legitimately your life is on the line. It is absolutely crazy to do. I mean, if it's something that he really, really wants to do, he is so loyal to that company. I do understand why Tony Khan is letting him do it. I do. The way that he was written off, him being thrown down some stairs, I would have made it be a little bit more dramatic. I would have done something where you're like, he might be dead. That's how I would have done it. But the fact that they have written him off due to injury, the one thing I will say is when he does return to TV, I don't want to hear anything about this Everest stuff. I want to hear that he was in hospital or something and he comes back with vengeance. I don't just want to hear that the savior of the company, or I was meant to be the savior of the company, got thrown down some stairs, decided, oh, actually, I'm just going to leave now and climb a mountain. I don't want to hear that, right? If they do it where they pretend he broke his neck somehow or something like that, okay, that's fine. Don't say on TV he climbed Everest when he comes back. Please don't.
So you just reminded me that that was the angle that's basically written him off TV, because yeah, I remember obviously that happened, but like you just said as well, he's been pushed downstairs before. So why is this
I
one
think he's
gonna take
flown
him
down it on his own.
that as well? So it's like, why is this the thing that's gonna write him off for so long? And with AEW, right, they are 100% going to talk about this on TV. They are 100% going to say, or he's going to say in a promo that, Moxley, I could do anything. I could beat you. I just climbed Everest, blah, blah, blah. Stuck my AEW flag at the top. Like, it's going to happen. So I would rather that he would have left TV, or maybe from this injury, he's in a hospital bed or something, and there's a promo that says that he needs to go off and find himself, or I think they need to sew in the Mount Everest stuff, because it's going to be everywhere and they are going to mention it. So they need to either sew in the injury angle with, but take some time away and go find myself, go to the mountains and this, that. Yeah. 'Cause I think he spoke about the failed attempt last year on TV, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. To me, if he does, I feel bad for Orange Cassidy. Like, even if he goes, I need to go and find myself. I'm like, poor Orange Cassidy. He's going to get beaten up every single week for the next, 3 months while you're just climbing some mountain. That's what annoys me about it. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's a weird one. And they said he's going training. I don't know when he's actually going to climb it, but I think I've seen before about April, May is like the peak time, the best time to climb, to minimize death, I guess. So yeah, hopefully he's okay. I genuinely want AEW to send, maybe they can't send camera crew with him, but like maybe send him up there with a camera, and I want to see some kind of documenting of this, because especially if you're going to use it to make him an uber baby face to then topple Moxley and his hold on the company, I feel like some good content out of it as well could work. What do you think?
I do agree with that. I mean, realistically, from a publicity standpoint, they definitely should be using this, right? Because it is going to be a big story, no doubt about it. Yeah, send him up with, a camera or a GoPro or whatever. And for sure, you can use some stuff. But it's just, again, I think however you do it, it needs to make sense for the story. And I still do think he's going to be the one to dethrone Jon Moxley at All in Texas. I think that is the plan. I don't know how I feel about that, because I think Darby Allin could be a world champion, but I think a transitional world champion. I don't necessarily think he should be the guy to dethrone Jon Moxley. I would have actually had that be Kenny Omega. I think him being, the company man coming back to save the company makes way, way more sense than Darby Allin. Just because, I don't know. I think genuinely Orange Cassidy is more of a company guy than Darby Allin has been almost. And I don't know why I feel that. Maybe it is just because Darby, goes away a lot to do certain things, but just something just doesn't fit for me personally as a fan.
I 100% get that feeling, and I agree that it should be Kenny Omega that beats Jon Moxley, because he's just returned to the company. He's gonna have all the eyes on him. You can see the performances that he does. There's even a level of story, because Moxley beats Chris Jericho for the title, didn't he?
Yeah, and then Omega defeated Moxley.
And Omega defeated Moxley. Yeah. Yes. So, okay. But then Omega can come in and defeat Moxley again. But obviously now roles reversed as a good guy sort of thing. I definitely feel like Darby Allin. My biggest issue with Darby Allin being world champion is that if you watch his matches, as entertaining as they are, because he just gets battered for a lot of the time and he takes that battering like a champ, I don't want to watch my world champion get battered and then roll someone up and then win. Like, how long is that going to
It's
be
true.
a thing? So, you know, and we can't then give him Serpentico to wrestle for the world championship just so we can get a dominant win. So, yeah, I feel like Darby should maybe one day have the crowd swell and everyone behind him to become a world champion, but stylistically, I just don't see how this is going to work. It'll get boring, I think, very quickly in terms of his matches and how they are planned out, sort of thing. Much rather at this point see Kenny Omega win the title. And then, you know, you've got Omega, you've got Okada, which they want to do. I think Omega Osprey 100% needs to happen in 2025. Like, let's not wait around and anything for that. Like, let's do it. So I definitely think with Darby choosing to go off and climb Mount Everest, let him do that if that's what you wish, and you know you guys are prepared to pick up any insurance costs if it comes to that. Hopefully not, but like, yeah, I think there's other candidates right now that make sense and will form a better storyline than it being Darby Allin post him returning from Mount Everest.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, again, like him just leaving AEW for months and then coming back and being the savior when it was his choice to leave, that doesn't seem
Yeah.
like he's the savior.
Yeah, that's very true. So yeah, there's better options available. Oh man. Last but not least, before we call it a wraps for today, what is the main thing you've enjoyed from this past week? Wrestler that you've enjoyed or a main segment you've enjoyed? Yeah, what has it been for this past week?
Well, I mean, this might be a little bit controversial, but I did quite enjoy the Raw Netflix debut. I mean, don't get me wrong, right? There was too many celebrities being shown on camera for too long. But what I really enjoyed about it more specifically is the amount of like people who used to be fans who were texting me saying they were watching and how much they loved it. Like that almost made me enjoy it more at the point of, okay, well, maybe a few things such as the Rock promo are annoying me. But the fact that, these people are coming back into wrestling because it's on Netflix and are loving it. I mean, that is fantastic. And of course, it's fantastic when wrestling is doing well, and it certainly is right now. Another shout I will say is Osprey versus Buddy Matthews as well. That was a great match.
Yeah. I think the Netflix debut, it just left me thinking, not that the show was bad, but it wasn't for me. And I feel for me, I said, okay, I'll take that on the chin as long as Raw this week is back on track, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, you had to put on this kind of 3-hour celebration and party almost for Raw being on Netflix. Cool. I get it. I didn't really enjoy it, but I get it. Just next week, give me back my Raw. And as long as they do that, which seemingly the card looks like, we could be getting something like that, just a regular wrestling show, that I think that's absolutely fine. Osprey and Buddy Matthews, like you said, I think it was long overdue, but we got it, and it was good stuff. I did love Kenny Omega and Osprey's face to face at the end of Dynamite, and just in general, Kenny Omega returning. I just feel like the whole show had a lift. There was something about Dynamite this week where I feel like, and I was saying this earlier this week as well, like their debut show on HBO Max the week before, I thought was pretty standard, middle of the road. Like, they had the angle of Ricochet stabbing Swerve Strickland and stuff, and I thought, okay, that's how you want to debut on a new platform, fair enough. Whereas WWE went uber, Hollywood and celebrity focused, like you mentioned. And this show that they put on with Kenny Omega and Osprey opening the show in that great match with Buddy Matthews and stuff like that, I thought this should have been the first Dynamite on HBO Max.
Absolutely.
Just because of the way they booked it, the star power, or the match quality and stuff like that. yeah, I felt like this was just something about Dynamite. So, they always talk about restoring the feeling. For me, the feeling was restored when Omega walked back in the building. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
looking forward to seeing him. Looking forward to seeing him in action this week against Brian Cage. I think that should be good fun. Anything you're looking forward to this next week?
Yeah, I mean that undoubtedly Cage versus Omega, the fact that they're both heavily influenced as well, both their characters by the Terminator. That's also they both did that Terminator pose for years and years and years. So to see them finally face off, I think it is going to be a banger. We haven't seen much of the best of what Brian Cage can do in AEW, but hopefully we will see it this week. And also, I realized I didn't say it as soon as I gave my takes, but I have to shout out Julia and Obafemi as well, of course, winning titles in NXT this week. I mean, Julia is somebody who I've been a fan of for years now. I was watching her in Stardom, then Marigold, and finally now she's in WWE, and of course, she's now NXT Women's Champion. So I'm excited to see what her and Obafemi both do next.
Yeah, that was really good. I feel like, again, The Rock came in and kind of stole the limelight, like, of all of that. Like, even
I like that.
Obafemi. Really?
The reason I thought it was an awful promo, don't get me wrong. I thought it was absolutely dreadful. But
Yeah.
the reason I liked it and I will defend it is so many people tuned into NXT this week and watched it all just to wait for The Rock's promo. So they waited until the end and watched The Rock's promo. And NXT put on such a great show that they are now probably going to tune back in next week for it. So yes, the Rock segment sucked, but it got more eyes on the product, and the product, up until the Rock promo, delivered enough for, I think, viewers to return next week. So I'm actually okay with it.
From a business point of view, I guess, yes, I agree with that. I feel like I'm also referring to the moment, like, even Obafemi's moment of winning the title, and like, I just felt like, where's the pageantry? Like, he got on stage and then Julia was there, and then he had to share his moment with Julia when Julia had already won early in the night. I just felt like it's like he's been robbed because of The Rock here or something. I don't know, but yeah, listen, those two are great. Obafemi, it's been undeniable. Like, Trick Williams, he's gonna have to go back to the drawing board and think about what's next, because Obafemi has been chasing him down and he didn't even know that Obafemi was coming for him. And Julia, like you said, that's someone that I've been watching for the best part of 4-ish years now, 3-4 years. So it's good to see her kind of calm and be trusted. And I think more so WWE continuously rehabbing their relationship with Japanese talents, and how talents from the Far East have come over to America and not been treated well, booked correctly. So this is another great example. I can't imagine Julia sticking around long in NXT though, personally. I think she's going to move up pretty quickly, maybe even post-Mania.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. We'll see, man. But yeah, another week of wrestling down, another week of wrestling to come. Ben, I want to thank you for coming on the show, man. Again, if you want to let people know where they can find you and Wrestling Republic related stuff.
Absolutely. It's been an honor coming on this show today, been a great one talking wrestling with you. And yeah, if you head to WrestlingRepublic.com, that's our website, Wrestling Republic on Instagram, Wrestling Republic on X, and Wrestling Republic on TikTok. And of course, Wrestling Republic on YouTube as well, where we do daily videos and a daily live stream every single day at 8 p.m. UK, 3 p.m. Eastern in America, and 3 p.m. Pacific in America as well. But once again, it's been great to be here and talk to you today.
Not a problem, man. You guys make sure you're checking out, tap in whatever your preferred platform is, if not all of them, with Wrestling Republic. We'll definitely keep you updated with everything happening in this crazy wrestling world that we're all fans of. Yeah, another showdown in the tank. I'll be back on Tuesday with a Raw review. Guys, make sure you hit the like button on your way out of this if you're watching live. Thank you very much. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. And like I say, you can catch this on your podcast platforms, Google, Apple, Spotify, all those kind of places. And yeah, we'll see you again next week. WrestleManiac UK signing out. And I'll see you soon.